right, welcome. ZASLOW Show 2.0. It is a Thursday, the 19th of January. Good to have you aboard. We got a lot to get to, a lot going on here today. Appreciate you hanging out with us, however you're listening to the show, whether it be on iTunes or Amazon, Google, Spotify, iHeart. Make sure you hit the like button, you rate, you comment, you do all that good stuff. I love you a long time. You tell your mother, you tell your friends, you tell your family. Spread the word about your favorite little podcast here, ZASLOW Show 2.0. Of course, part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. Love those guys. Having a real good time being on with them now. For this is week number 2, first full week that we're a part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network, and I really appreciate those guys. Again, everything ZASLOW Show 2.0 is brought to us by our title sponsor, Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys, 800-747-FREE. That's 800-747-3733. We're just 2 sleeps away from the NFL divisional round. You know, the NFL divisional round used to be my favorite football weekend of the year. I think it's now Super Wildcard Weekend because since they added the teams was it last year or 2 years ago? Since they added the teams, I think it was last year, right? Yeah, last year was when we went to 17 games. Since they added the teams, now you get 2 extra games. You get 6 Super Wildcard games, including a Monday Night Football game. And Super Wildcard round was very, very good this year. So divisional round is still great. You got big lines, all right? And the reason you got big lines, see, this is why the divisional round used to be my favorite, but sometimes you'll get some duds because not only do you have the best teams playing, because it's the teams that got to bye, teams like the Chiefs and Eagles, used to be 2 in each, conference that would happen. Now it's just 1, so I think there's a better chance for overall the games to be good, but you got the better teams that are hosting a team that may have pulled off an upset, like the Giants. And you also have very big lines because those teams are now rested. So the divisional round, the matchups can look juicy, but sometimes you can get some duds because the competition is just too good with the home team. Sometimes they're playing a big underdog because maybe there was an upset in round 1 and they're rested. So we'll see. But Cowboys, 49ers, Bengals, Bills, Giants, Eagles. All 3 of those games, I think, even though the line is pretty big on Giants and Eagles, 7.5, I think 3 of those games have potential to be just bangers. Old school NFC matchup from the 90s from growing up, Cowboys and 49ers. Divisional game, Giants and Eagles. How about 3 of the 4 NFC East teams still alive in the Final 4 for the NFC? Bengals, Bills, ton of storyline in that game, of course. Bengals were at the Bills a couple weeks ago. Well, was it 3 weeks ago now? Where you had DeMar Hamlin. Okay, so Bengals are back there now. Jaguars and Chiefs, game's going to be bad. It's not going to be good. Speaking of which, Jessica Blaylock, big Jaguars fan. She was a Jacksonville girl. Jessica Blaylock, she's one of our favorites. Bally Sports, she's going to join us coming up. We're going to talk some Panther hockey with her. We'll see what she's watching these days. We like going over Netflix. And, and we'll ask her about the Jaguars. All right, so we'll get our pal Jessica Blaylock on the show coming up in a few minutes here. Panthers have a big one tonight. And when I say a big one, it's like, oh, they're playing Montreal. Yeah, it's a big one because they're chasing that final wild card spot. Every regular season game from here on out for the Florida Panthers feels like a big game. So tonight you got the Panthers and the Montreal Canadiens trying to close out this road trip. Panthers are 5-2-1 in their last 8 games. They're probably in the midst of their best stretch of hockey so far this season. But you got to close out the trip tonight with a game you need to win. Montreal, they suck. Come on. So tonight you got the Panthers. Okay, but we got to start the show, of course, with your Miami Heat. I told you going back to the Brooklyn game, which was a loss, I believe the Heat are playing their best basketball of the season. So I was frustrated when they lost that Brooklyn game at the end, not just because there was cheating, where they let Royce O'Neal maul Jimmy Butler at the end of that game, not just because of the cheating, but I really feel like we're playing, oh, excuse me, I'm choking. I really feel like we're playing our best basketball of the season. And so not to come out with that win, that was frustrating. But going back to that game, I really like the direction that this team is trending in right now. They win last night. They're now 25-21. They tie a season best 4 games over 500, which they were before the Atlanta game. That's fresh. If you win that Atlanta game, you'd have been sitting here 6 games over 500, and now you're starting to cook with gas. But instead, 25-21, and they have now moved into the top 6, which is where you want to be. They moved into the top 6 in the Eastern Conference. New York lost last night to Washington. The Heat are number 6 right now. Both teams 25-21. The Heat currently on the tiebreak. I don't believe that the Heat can catch top 5, although Brooklyn, we'll see, because Kyrie Irving, not a leading man, and Brooklyn is now in a free fall because they don't have Kevin Durant, who's going to be out for at least the next few weeks. The Nets have lost 3 in a row. The Heat are 3 back of Brooklyn. They're also 3.5 back. They're 3 back of Cleveland. I don't think they're going to catch Cleveland. It's a lot of games. I think the Heat, right there, that sweet spot is that, right there, that sweet spot is the number 6 position for Miami, where, technically in the first round, you would face Philadelphia, who, I think the Heat would be a live dog in a series with Philadelphia. But the Heat finally, they have jumped into that top 6. Oh, ZASLOW, they beat a Pelicans team that wasn't playing anybody. Okay, but here's the thing. They didn't just beat a team that wasn't playing anybody. They killed them from start to finish. And it wasn't even, they pulled away in the second half like they did against Oklahoma City, right? Tight game first half, 1-point game. Then they were up by 10 the whole second half. The Heat were up by 20 the entire game. They got out to a 30-13 lead. I don't know that the Pelicans got within single digits after that. I think they got within 12 a couple times. The Heat were up big the entire game. And look, the Heat have lost games this year to shorthanded teams. They love losing games or playing close games against shorthanded teams. That was a shorthanded team last night. The Heat were actually whole. I mean, Duncan Robinson's out, yeah. That was a shorthanded team last night on the road. Heat are a good road team. The Heat are one of the matter of fact, the Heat are one of the best road teams. The Heat are 11-12 on the road this year. If you're a 500 team on the road, you're a good team. The Heat crushed an undermanned New Orleans team last night, and you know what? That's what good teams do. It's not like they won by 4. They crushed an undermanned team. That's what good teams do. So it further endorses, I think the Heat are heading in the right direction right now. Because if you're heading in the right direction, last night is what you do to that Pelicans team. You don't dick around. Game starts, you immediately get out big, and you never let up. So Bam last night, who, by the way, Bam's an all-star this year. Bam needs to be in the all-star game. He has taken that next step. We'll get to that in a moment. Bam, 26 points last night, 11 of 15 from the floor. Jimmy Butler, 18 points, 8 for 13. Max Strus, 16 points, 10 assists. 10 assists, right? 10 assists? I believe it was 10 assists. 10 assists for Max Strus. Gabe Vincent had 16 off the bench. He remains hot. Kyle Lowry returned. He did nothing. He never does anything. He had a couple baskets very early in the game, and then, he did nothing the rest of the way. But from Kyle Lowry being there, it kind of steadies the rotation, and now you got a bench that could do a little something. Strus, Oladipo, Vincent. You got some guys who could score off the bench. Heat bench scored 49 last night. Orlando Robinson had a double-figure game. Can't count on that. But the Heat bench last night at 49. So Lowry being back, that's where it helps. Not that he's actually back, but it steadies the rotation and gives you a bench that can be potent. And that's what you got last night. So the Heat, they crushed New Orleans last night. Next up for them is Friday. They are in Dallas. And that's an ESPN game. And the Mavericks are struggling a little bit right now. So the Heat have a chance here to close out. They play Sunday home against New Orleans, that Pelican team we saw last night. You got a chance to close out this road trip very, very strong. I really do believe the Heat are starting. I think they're starting to look like the Heat. And we talked about this going into the season where you may not have liked that they didn't do anything in the offseason. You may not like that they didn't accomplish what maybe they tried to do in the offseason. They literally didn't add anybody. That's not how you improve. Oh, ZASLOW, what do you expect from this team? They didn't do anything. Well, at the very least, I expect them to be close to what they were last year. Who cares they got rid of PJ Tucker? PJ Tucker ain't the reason why this team was struggling. Give me a break. The way this Heat team was going to improve upon last year, internal growth. That was the way. Now, Tyler Hero, I think Israel mentioned this on our show a couple days ago. If you miss any of ZASLOW Show 2.0, you can always go back on the feed. Go back on the podcast feed. Go back and listen to a show. Come on now. You know what I'm talking about. Israel joined us a couple days ago, and he talked about how, when Tyler Hero returns from, if he misses a game or two, he's usually rusty. Well, he was 0 for 7 from 3 again last night. 6 of 6 from 2. He's the best 2-point shooter last night. 0 for 7 from 3 for Tyler Hero. Now, Tyler can be up and down. That's for sure. But the internal growth that you're getting, number one, from Bam. Yeah, Bam's taking the next step. He is a consistent offensive threat. He has the most paint baskets in the entire league this year. Everything he's getting is around the basket in the paint. He is not hesitant. He is so far removed from that guy last year who was hesitant to take that mid-range jumper. So far removed. He's become a big-time offensive player. He had 26 last, 11 of 15 from the floor. It's like 70%. I don't have my abacus with me here. I'm sorry. You're getting that internal growth from Bam, and you're also getting it from Victor Oladipo. And look, I think he had 7 points last night, Oladipo. But Oladipo on both ends of the floor. Offense and defense, very strong. So far removed from the player we saw last year. He looks like Victor Oladipo for the most part out there. That's why this team, they're getting that internal growth. Now, you got to be healthy. Everybody knows that. But that's why this team, I really do believe they're headed in the right direction now. Look, everyone's out, pretty much everyone. Guys like Tyler Hero aren't, who signed the big extension in the offseason. But pretty much everyone in the league is eligible to be traded now. Force the front office to make a big trade. Force the front office to be buyers in a month from now, within the next month, before the trade deadline. Force them to get a guy, a stretch big type who you can put next to Bam Adebayo. And that's nothing against Caleb Martin. I've told you this, Caleb Martin, they got to upgrade from Caleb Martin. Why do you have to have 5 All-Stars in the starting lineup? I would say guys who are paid the way Bam is paid, who are paid the way Butler is paid, who are paid the way Hero is paid, who are paid the way Lowry is paid, that's not enough. Those 4 guys. You also have to have, player X who's all the way up here, rather than a guy like Caleb Martin who's here. You have to have a player who's all the way up here also to round out that starting 5. When you're paying those guys I just mentioned all of that money, you don't have to have 5 studs. And look, I ain't saying Kyle Lowry's a stud. You don't have to have 5 studs in the starting lineup. So I think that whole thing got to improve upon Caleb Martin. I think that is so overstated. But force the front office to go out there and be buyers. Force them to believe that this team has a chance. And I know there are rumors out there about D'Angelo Russell. I told you, I'd be all for getting rid of Lowry and adding D'Angelo Russell, but I don't think D'Angelo Russell's a Heat kind of guy. I don't think they see him as their kind of guy. I would be surprised if that kind of move was made. But, I heard John Collins' name was mentioned again. I don't know. John Collins would be great on this team, but John Collins was mentioned throughout the summer. Nothing happened. I feel like he's kind of just a name that gets thrown out there, and I don't even know if there's any real traction to it. But force this front office to make a move. Force Andy Ellisberg and Pat Riley to sit there and say, listen, just like every other Eric Spoelstra coach Miami Heat team, we're getting better throughout the season. We're going to get better in the second half of the year, and we got an opportunity here. Again, the window's the window. All right, in the 4 years Jimmy Butler's been here, we got an NBA Finals appearance and a shot away from the NBA Finals. This is the window. Let's go out. Let's swing big. Let's make a move. We got some first-round picks. Let's do it. Let's add somebody to this team. This team's trending in the right direction. So, I'm really pleased with what the Heat are doing right now. I like that win last night. I like, just sit back, chill, relax. This game's a blowout. Talk to my wife a little bit throughout the game. Chat her up. I don't have to pay as close attention to what's going on. So smoking them fools. Yeah, I like that kind of game every now and then. Yeah. So the Heat now, number 6 in the Eastern Conference, tied for a season best, 4 games over 500. They're going to look to finish the trip strong tomorrow night.